Welcome back to Alchemy Online, your skate class in your home. Today, we're going to be taking a look at how skateboards are made. So, we're going to be starting from our raw materials, and we're going to walk you through how we turn stacks of maple veneers into beautiful skateboards for you to ride. The first step on our journey to building a skateboard involves our materials. The majority of skateboards on the market today are all made with hard rock maple, usually of a Canadian variety. However, there are companies out there using more advanced materials, composite materials, carbon fibers, but the bulk of skateboards on the market today are tried and true wooden manufactured skateboards. Most of our skateboards, again, are 7 plies of Canadian maple. Each single ply is also referred to as a veneer. One of the most important parts in pressing a skateboard is making sure that you have a variety of grains. So if you were to use all vertical grains in your skateboard, you would have a relatively flimsy and or breakable skateboard. So the way companies have got around this is a mixture of vertical and horizontal grain wood. You can see this guy has a little more bend this way in it, where our vertical lambs like to bend vertically. So 7 plies consist of a face ply, which is pre-sanded to have a nice finish. We do another vertical ply under it. We have our first horizontal or cross ply, another vertical ply in the middle, one more cross ply, and then another vertical, and our bottom sheet, which again, sanded to have a nice finish. So 7 plies of wood, and how we go from this stack into this lovely thing involves a press. All right, guys, welcome to Alchemy's Dungeon of Production. We have right here to my right our lovely skateboard press, compliments of Frank Porcelli. He's let us use this thing while he's not using it, and we're incredibly grateful. It's a relatively simple DIY press. We've got 2 20-ton hydraulic jacks down here. We've got the bottom of our mold, we've got the top of our mold, and we've got a big steel press to hold it all together. So once we get our laminates glued up, we're going to slide that skateboard right into here. We're going to push these jacks up, keeping good pressure on that board. And just to be safe, we're going to let it sit in there for 24 hours. We want to make sure that we get no warping, no D-lams, nothing but the best for you to skate. So next up, we're going to start gluing up some laminates for you guys. We've got our 7 plies of maple. Time to glue them all up. I have already put them in order and got the grains facing all the right way. So now all there is to it is to glue it. We got our Tight Bond 2. And I'm not going to lie, there's better ways to do this, but I prefer the caveman approach to board making. Just drizzle a nice, generous amount of glue on there, and we get to rolling. Again, the main thing is we want to make sure there's glue all the way across this thing, all the way out to the edges, to make sure that we don't get any sort of air pockets, bubbles, and again, I want to make sure I don't leave any puddles anywhere on this board, because those are going to create weak points where the board becomes more brittle and more likely to crack. We're going to get our stack nice and tidy as much as we can. We're going to gently feed this thing into our press in, making sure that we're going all the way to the nose, all the way to the tail, and then we're just going to get it as close to center as we can. All right, we're going to start getting some pressure in. All right, so our board's in the press. We've maxed out both of our hydraulic jacks. Not going anywhere. We're gonna let this guy sit overnight. Tomorrow, we're gonna drop the mold, mark the registration lines, and see what we get. So, you've just pressed your first skateboard, and you have something that looks like this. What do you do next? We come up with our shape. One of the most important things about coming up with the shape of our skateboard is getting a center line on our board. That's right, you guessed it, the center line is a line that runs down the center of our board, and it indicates where the true center of all of our concave lives. If you don't have a good center line on your board, chances are your shape's going to be asymmetrical and or your trucks are not going to be set right. Still probably rideable, but if we're going to do something, let's try to do it the right way. You can see here I've mocked up a shape using my center line, and the way I like to do my shapes is I use paper templates. I fold them in half, I cut my shape, and then when I open that paper, I have a symmetrical left and right side of my skateboard. It's a relatively cost-effective and easy way to start creating shapes for your board. Once we have our general shape laid out, the last thing we need to figure out is where we're going to mount our trucks, and we're going to decide what kind of wheelbase we want on our skateboard. A longer wheelbase is going to provide more stability at higher speeds, but a shorter wheelbase is going to give you a little more maneuverability. Every skater I've ever met has a preference on what their favorite wheelbase is. No one's right, no one's wrong, it's personal preference. I myself have become accustomed to riding a 15.5-inch wheelbase, which is what I have measured out here, and I've measured out my wheelbase from the center of my board, making sure that my bolt holes are not infringing on my tail or on my nose. When you get really into the nitty-gritty of board shapes, all kinds of riders around the world have preferences on how much space is behind their back truck before their tail starts, the degree of their tail, how long the tail or nose of the board is, and again, it's all personal preference. There's no right or wrong when it comes to your board shape, unless you're riding something you don't like.